My name is Alara Hayes, and I've always considered myself a creature of habit. 34 years woven into the tapestry of Willow Creek, a quaint town nestled amongst the rolling hills of Vermont. My life, before it fractured, was a comforting rhythm of predictability. I was a librarian, surrounded by the hushed whispers of turning pages and the comforting scent of old paper. My husband, Liam, a skilled carpenter, filled our Victorian home with the aroma of sawdust and the steady tap-tap-tap of his hammer. We were content, or so I believed, sketching out dreams of a future brimming with children and quiet evenings by the fireplace. That comforting rhythm shattered 7 months ago. Liam was driving home from a job in Burlington when a sudden blizzard swept across the interstate. A patch of black ice, a swerve, a collision. The next moment, I was numbly discussing cremation options with a somber-faced funeral director, Liam's body too ravaged for an open casket. My world, once so vividly hued, bled into a monochrome canvas of grief. The initial weeks were a blur of condolences, casseroles, and sleepless nights punctuated by phantom echoes of Liam's laughter. My parents, normally reserved and emotionally distant, stepped in with a quiet efficiency that surprised me. "Alara, darling," my mother, a woman of few words, said softly, her hand resting on mine, "we've contacted Serenity Funeral Home. They'll take care of everything. You just be." I clung to their unexpected support, adrift in a sea of sorrow. Seeking solace, I found refuge in a grief support group, a circle of kindred spirits gathered every Thursday evening in the hushed sanctuary of Willow Creek Community Church. Some days, I confessed, my voice barely above a whisper, I wake up and, just for a moment, I forget. I reach for him, and then, a gentle hand clasped mine. It belonged to Clara, a woman with kind eyes and a serene smile, who'd lost her husband 5 years prior. "It's the waves, Alara," she murmured, her voice laced with understanding. "Grief comes in waves. Sometimes they're gentle ripples, sometimes they crash over you, threatening to pull you under. But you will learn to navigate them." As the initial tidal wave of grief receded, I was left to confront the practicalities of life without Liam. He'd been meticulous about our finances, ensuring I'd be provided for. We had our home, a small cabin nestled by Emerald Lake, and a modest nest egg. I could have taken a leave of absence from the library, but the thought of the empty silence of our home was suffocating. Instead, I chose to work part-time, finding a strange comfort in the familiar routines and the quiet companionship of books. An unexpected shift occurred in my relationship with my parents. Growing up, I'd always felt overshadowed by my younger sister, Serafina. A vivacious free spirit, Serafina captivated their attention with her artistic pursuits and ever-changing passions. My quiet achievements, my dedication to my work, often seemed to fade into the background. Yet, in the wake of Liam's death, a new dynamic emerged. Driven by a desire to ease their burden, I began sending them a portion of my income, $1,000 each month. Our weekly Sunday dinners, once obligatory affairs, became a source of unexpected solace. My mother would prepare her comforting lentil stew, my father would pour glasses of his homemade elderflower wine, and we'd talk, truly talk, for the first time in years. "Alara," my father would ask, his gaze meeting mine with genuine interest, "how is the new reading program at the library progressing?" I'd find myself sharing details about my work, the challenges and small triumphs, reveling in the newfound sense of connection. For the first time, I felt truly seen. This fragile equilibrium shattered the evening Serafina arrived for dinner, 8 months pregnant and radiating an almost theatrical air of vulnerability. Just like that, the spotlight shifted. "Serafina, my love," my mother fussed, gently nudging me aside to make room for her on the antique settee. "Are you comfortable? Do you need a cushion? Your feet must be swollen." I felt myself receding, fading back into the familiar shadows. The conversation revolved around Serafina's pregnancy, her cravings, her anxieties. The old, familiar pang of being overlooked resurfaced, a dull ache in my chest. So, who's the father? I ventured, trying to join the conversation, to reclaim a sliver of space. Serafina's expression clouded. That's really none of your business, Alara, she retorted, her voice sharp, a defensive edge creeping into her tone. My mother, ever the protector, immediately intervened. Alara, don't pry. Serafina doesn't need to share personal details if she doesn't want to. The irony stung. I recalled the endless questions, the unsolicited advice, the constant updates they demanded during my own struggles with infertility, the painful years of trying to conceive with Liam. Yet, with Serafina, a wall of privacy was instantly erected. A few weeks later, during another Sunday dinner, I tried again. Serafina, how are you planning to manage financially? Babies are expensive. She waved a dismissive hand, a familiar, almost smug smile playing on her lips. Don't you worry about me and my little sprout, Alara, she said, her voice brimming with an unearned confidence. We'll be just fine. I've got it all figured out. I should have recognized that smile. I'd seen it countless times before the prelude to another one of Serafina's grand schemes that inevitably fizzled and faded. The short-lived artisanal soap business, the unfinished online course in holistic healing, the disastrous investment in organic alpaca wool. Trust me, she declared, patting her burgeoning belly, her eyes gleaming with a conviction that, in retrospect, should have been a warning sign. This time, everything is going exactly according to plan. My father beamed at her, his eyes filled with paternal pride. That's my girl, he declared. Always lands on her feet. I swallowed another mouthful of lentil stew, the familiar taste overshadowed by the bitter tang of being perpetually second best. Some things, it seemed, never changed. The call from Serafina came on a Tuesday morning. I was shelving returned books, the quiet rhythm a balm to my still fragile heart. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Serafina's name flashed across the screen. I almost ignored it. Our conversations were infrequent, strained, punctuated by awkward silences. But something compelled me to answer. Alara, she began, her voice laced with a saccharine sweetness she usually reserved for asking for favors. I'm having a baby shower next Sunday at Mom and Dad's. I'd love for you to be there. The invitation caught me off guard. Our last meaningful conversation had been at Liam's funeral, and even then, she'd seemed distracted, uncomfortable. Are you sure? I asked, surprise lacing my voice. I could count on one hand the number of times Serafina had extended a genuine invitation. Of course, she laughed, a little too brightly. You're my sister. It wouldn't be the same without you. Besides, she added, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper, I have a special announcement. A knot of unease tightened in my stomach, but I pushed it aside. I'll be there, I said, already picturing a hand-knitted baby blanket, hoping this was her way of bridging the chasm between us. The following Sunday, I arrived at my parents' home, a hand-painted birdhouse clutched in my hands. The house was transformed into a pastel explosion. Balloons bobbed against the ceiling, streamers cascaded from the chandelier, and a towering diaper cake, adorned with satin ribbons and miniature rubber duckies, dominated the dining room table. Leave it to Serafina to orchestrate a spectacle. Half of Willow Creek seemed to be crammed into the living room. My Aunt Millie chatted animatedly with her circle of quilting friends. My mother's book club members occupied the plush armchairs, sipping tea and whispering amongst themselves. Serafina, resplendent in a flowing maternity gown that likely cost more than my monthly grocery budget, flitted through the crowd, radiating an almost manic energy. She looked radiant, but something in her smile, a subtle glint in her eyes, unnerved me. Her gaze kept catching mine, lingering a little too long. We played the usual baby shower games, guessing the circumference of Serafina's belly with lengths of yarn, predicting the baby's birth date, the slightly embarrassing game involving melted chocolate bars and diapers. I won the belly measuring contest, much to Serafina's apparent displeasure. Throughout the afternoon, she continued to glance at me, a strange expectancy in her eyes, as if waiting for the perfect moment. After the gifts were opened, each receiving an exaggerated display of gratitude from Serafina, she tapped a spoon against her champagne flute, silencing the room. My heart began to pound, a premonition of dread washing over me. The air crackled with anticipation. "I want to thank everyone for coming today," Serafina began, one hand resting possessively on her swollen abdomen. "But there's something else I need to share. I think it's time everyone knew who the father of my baby is." My breath caught in my throat. Serafina's gaze locked with mine, and in that instant I knew. A cold certainty settled in my gut, a premonition of the devastation to come. Knowing didn't lessen the blow. "The father," Serafina announced, her voice ringing through the suddenly silent room, "is Liam Hayes, Alara's late husband." The world seemed to tilt on its axis. Through the roaring in my ears, I registered the gasps, the hushed whispers rippling through the room. Aunt Millie's hand flew to her mouth. My mother's book club friends exchanged shocked glances. But the most devastating blow was the serene expressions on my parents' faces. They weren't surprised. They knew. Before I could process the enormity of the betrayal, Serafina continued, her voice laced with a sickening triumph. "Since this baby is Liam's only child," she declared, turning to face me directly, "I'm entitled to half of everything he left behind. The house, the cabin, the savings. My child deserves his father's inheritance." The room spun. I gripped the back of a chair, my knees threatening to buckle. My parents stepped forward, flanking Serafina, a protective phalanx. "Alara," my father said, his voice stern, "you need to do the right thing. Your nephew deserves what's rightfully his." I found my voice, raspy and choked with disbelief. "You're lying. All of you." "Liam would never." Serafina's smile vanished, replaced by a chilling coldness. She produced her phone, holding it aloft. "Oh, really? Then explain these." The screen displayed a series of photographs, each one a shard of glass piercing my heart. Liam and Serafina, intertwined in each other's arms, kissing in a dimly lit hotel room. Another photo showed them holding hands across a table in a Burlington restaurant I'd never seen before. "He loved me," Serafina declared, her voice ringing with a cruel finality. "He was leaving you. We were going to tell everyone." She paused, her eyes welling with crocodile tears. "Then the accident happened, and all our plans, gone." I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. My body moved on autopilot. I grabbed my purse, pushed past the stunned guests, and stumbled out into the crisp autumn air. I dimly heard my mother calling after me, but I was already backing out of the driveway, the crunch of gravel beneath my tires a stark counterpoint to the shattering of my world. The drive home was a blur of swirling leaves and blurred streetlights. My mind replayed the photographs, searching for clues, for any hint of the deception that had been woven into the fabric of my life. The restaurant, one of Liam's supposed business dinners. The hotel, one of his frequent, out-of-town jobs. My phone buzzed incessantly. Serafina bombarded me with messages, screenshots of text exchanges with Liam. "I don't love her anymore, Alara. I haven't for a long time. We'll tell her after the divorce is finalized. You're the only one I want. I can't wait to start our life together." Each message was a fresh wound, a brutal confirmation of the life I'd unknowingly shared. That night, I wandered through our house, a ghost in my own life, touching Liam's tools, his clothes, his books, searching for remnants of the man I thought I knew. Had it all been a lie? Every shared laugh, every whispered confidence, every dream woven together, a carefully constructed facade. At 7 a.m., the phone rang. My parents. I let it ring several times before answering, my voice flat, devoid of emotion. "Alara, you need to be reasonable about this," my father began, dispensing with pleasantries. "The sooner you agree to give Serafina what's rightfully hers, the easier this will be for everyone." The cold, calculated tone of his voice ignited a spark of anger within me. Easier for whom? For Serafina? For them? When did you know? I managed, my voice barely a whisper. A pregnant silence hung in the air, a tacit admission of their complicity. Finally, my mother spoke, her voice strained. We've known for a while. Liam told us, a few months before the accident. A few months. They knew. And they let me grieve, let me mourn, all the while harboring this devastating secret. Traitors. The word echoed in my mind, a cold, hard truth. I ended the call, blocked their numbers. My hands trembled as I logged into my online banking account, but I didn't hesitate. I canceled the monthly transfer. If they needed money, they could ask their precious Serafina. 3 weeks of unanswered calls and unread messages passed. Then came the registered letter. Serafina was suing me for half of Liam's estate. The legalese was cold, impersonal, yet the underlying message was clear. She wanted the house, half the savings, a share of the cabin. I spent days researching lawyers, finally settling on Amelia Thorne, a woman with a reputation for handling complex family disputes with quiet strength and unwavering integrity. Alara, Amelia said, her voice gentle but firm, I need to be honest. Your sister has compelling evidence of a relationship with your husband. Text messages, photographs, witness testimonies, including your parents. In cases like this, evidence of a close relationship and a biological child often sways the court in favor of the child's well-being. Reeling from this fresh wave of betrayal, my phone rang. An unknown number. Hello. I answered tentatively. Alara Hayes? A woman's voice inquired, a hesitant tremor in her tone. The voice was unfamiliar, yet there was something familiar about the cadence, the inflection. Yes. My name is Eleanor Vance. I was Liam's friend. My heart lurched. I'm sorry, I stammered, I don't understand. I know this is difficult, Eleanor continued, her voice soft, almost apologetic. But there are things you need to know. Things that might help you. We arranged to meet the next morning at the Cozy Kettle, a small tea room on the outskirts of Willow Creek. I arrived early, a knot of anxiety tightening in my stomach. I ordered a chamomile tea, my hands trembling as I cradled the warm mug. When Eleanor entered, I was struck by her resemblance to Liam. The same warm brown eyes, the same gentle smile, the same quiet grace in her movements. I was at the funeral, she said, after we settled into a secluded booth. I sat in the back, trying to be invisible. Liam and we hadn't spoken in years. I couldn't bring myself to approach you then. I remembered her now. The woman in the simple gray dress, her face partially obscured by a wide-brimmed hat. I'd been too consumed by my own grief to register her presence. Why are you telling me this now? I asked, suspicion clinging to my words. After everything, trust felt like a fragile, broken thing. Eleanor reached into her bag, producing a worn, leather-bound journal. Because I heard what your sister is trying to do, she said, her voice quiet but steady, and because, despite everything, I don't want to see another woman suffer because of Liam's mistakes. Her fingers trembled as she slid the journal across the table. I opened it hesitantly, my heart pounding. The pages contained entries spanning several years, chronicling a deep, loving relationship between Liam and Eleanor. Interspersed were photographs, candid snapshots of them hiking in the Green Mountains, kayaking on Emerald Lake, sharing quiet moments by a crackling fire. Then, nestled amongst the photographs, I found it. A small, faded ultrasound image. Beneath it, Liam's handwriting. Our little miracle. Due October. October. The same month Serafina was due. Liam and we were trying to have a child, Eleanor said softly, her gaze meeting mine. He was heartbroken when it didn't happen. He blamed himself. He pulled away from me, from everyone. I stared at the ultrasound image, the pieces of the puzzle clicking into place. Liam's increasing distance, his unexplained trips to Burlington, his growing melancholy. He'd been grieving the loss of a child, a dream he'd shared with another woman. The courtroom was hushed as Judge Morrison read the results of the paternity test. Serafina sat rigid, her son cradled in her arms, oblivious to the tension crackling in the air. The results conclusively exclude Liam Hayes as the father of this child, Judge Morrison stated, her voice clear and resonant. A collective gasp rippled through the courtroom. Serafina's carefully constructed composure crumbled. Tears streamed down her face, her mascara smudging. A mess. Ramsey, Judge Morrison addressed her, her voice now edged with steel. Would you care to explain why you perjured yourself before this court? Serafina clutched her son tighter, her voice a choked whisper. I was seeing other men. When Liam died, I panicked. He had money. I needed it, so you attempted to defraud your own sister. Judge Morrison's voice was sharp, accusatory. You even enlisted your parents in this deception. I just wanted a good life for my baby, Serafina whispered, her voice barely audible. This time, the performance fell flat. Even my parents, their faces etched with shock and dawning comprehension, finally saw the depth of Serafina's deceit. Judge Morrison delivered her verdict swiftly, decisively. This court finds in favor of the defendant, Alara Hayes. All claims by Serafina Ramsey to the estate of Liam Hayes are hereby dismissed with prejudice. Ms. Ramsey, you are fortunate Ms. Hayes is not pursuing charges of fraud. Outside the courthouse, my parents approached me, their faces etched with shame. My mother wept silently, my father looked older, smaller, than I'd ever seen him before. Alara, darling, my mother began, reaching for my hand. We didn't know. We truly believed. I raised my hand, stopping her. Don't, I said, my voice quiet but firm. Just don't. I pulled out my phone, blocked their numbers, and walked away without looking back. Eleanor was waiting by my car, her eyes filled with concern. Are you all right? She asked softly. To my surprise, I laughed, a shaky, slightly hysterical sound. You know what? I think I am. Or I will be. I took a deep breath, the crisp autumn air filling my lungs. I've been thinking about the cabin, I said, a new sense of purpose settling within me. Too many memories. But maybe you'd like it? Eleanor's eyes widened in surprise. Alara, I couldn't. Please, I insisted. You gave me back my life. Let me give you something in return. A week later, I handed her the keys. She wept, hugging me tightly. I never thought I'd have a daughter. That was 4 months ago. My parents still attempt to contact me through distant relatives, mutual acquaintances, but I've severed those ties as well. Serafina sent a letter expressing remorse, claiming to have changed, pleading for help with her son. I discarded it unopened. Instead, I have Sunday dinners with Eleanor. We're slowly building a new kind of family, sharing stories about Liam, the good and the bad, acknowledging the complexities of the man we both loved. I'm not ready to think about dating. Not yet, but I'm living again. I've returned to the library full-time, joined a pottery class, and I'm planning a trip to the coast of Maine, a solo adventure I'd always dreamed of. Sometimes, when I catch my reflection in the library windows, I barely recognize the woman staring back. Life has a way of rewriting the narrative, of shattering the familiar and forging something new, something unexpected, something beautiful. I lost the family I was born into, but I found another, a family born of shared grief and unexpected grace. It's not the life I envisioned, but perhaps, just perhaps, it's the life I was meant to live all along.